Hello, and welcome back to the Online Educators Forum for the final episode of our Demystifying the Digital Landscape series. I'm your host, Lindsay Andreolli-Comstock. One of the most frequent points of confusion when building an online learning program is choosing the right format. We often hear the terms course, webinar, training, and workshop used interchangeably. However, they serve entirely different purposes, require completely different software configurations, and expect different things from your learners. Choosing the wrong format can lead to disengaged audiences or unmet goals. Today, I'll be breaking down the structural and pedagogical differences between these four formats and looking at how to pick the right tool for the job. To choose the right structure, you first have to understand what each format is fundamentally designed to achieve. A webinar, for example. This is primarily an information broadcast. It is usually a one-time, short-term event where one or more experts speak to a large, passive audience. Interaction is typically limited to a text-based chat or a brief discussion at the end of the webinar. It is built for a mass reach and high-level awareness. A training, on the other hand, is usually focused on compliance, standardization, or specific technical skills. It teaches a learner exactly how to perform a task, such as navigating a piece of software or following an administrative protocol. The goal here is consistency, ensuring everyone does the task the exact same way. A workshop is collaborative, active, and generative. It is a high engagement session where participants don't just listen, they work. By the end of a workshop, the learner should have produced a tangible asset, like a strategic roadmap or a draft of a policy or even a project plan. A course, however, is a comprehensive learning journey delivered over weeks or months. It combines multiple lessons, deep assessments, and ongoing peer interactions to move a student from a basic introduction to a true pro-level understanding. While it is easy to see how these formats look different on a screen, the real magic and perhaps the real risk here lies in their pedagogy, or the method and practice of how we teach using them. Each of these formats triggers a completely different cognitive process in the adult brain. If you don't align your teaching method with how the brain processes information, learning breaks down. Pedagogically speaking, a webinar relies heavily on passive consumption. The learner's brain is working to absorb, filter, and categorize visual and auditory data. Because there is very little immediate application, the information sits in short-term memory. If it isn't anchored to something practical soon after the broadcast, it evaporates. Therefore, the pedagogy of a webinar must focus on reducing cognitive overload, keeping slides clean and concepts high level so the brain isn't overwhelmed by the text. A training operates on the pedagogy of behaviorism and immediate replication. The goal here isn't critical thinking or creative interpretation, it is correct execution. The learning science behind a good training relies on cognitive scaffolding, breaking a complex task into tiny, bite-sized steps, demonstrating the correct action, and having the learner immediately mirror that behavior back to you. Success is measured by accuracy and repetition. A workshop completely flips the script. Its pedagogy is rooted in constructivism, which means adults learn best by actively building meaning and creating things with others. In a workshop, the instructor acts less like an expert and more like a facilitator. The cognitive process here is highly collaborative. Learners are bouncing ideas off of their peers, testing hypotheses, and actively problem solving. The learning happens in the disruption of the doing. Finally, a course relies on transformational learning theory. Deep conceptual change doesn't happen in an hour. It requires time, reflection, and feedback loops. Pedagogically speaking, a course is designed to challenge an adult's existing frameworks, introduce complex new theories, allow time for those ideas to marinate, and use formal assessments to measure true mastery. It is the only format designed to fundamentally alter a student's worldview, or professional capability, over an extended timeline. When you don't match your format and its underlying pedagogy to your educational goals, your digital ecosystem starts to push back. Here are the common pain points that occur when these formats are misaligned. The first is death by PowerPoint webinars. You want people to learn how to collaborate, but you choose a passive webinar format. The audience sits muted for 90 minutes looking at your slides. Because the pedagogy is passive, but your goal is active, you get total disengagement, multitasking, and a complete lack of retention. Next is the inefficient workshop. You need to share a quick administrative update with, say, 100, 200 people, but you format it as an interactive workshop. You spend hours managing breakout rooms and collaborative whiteboards just to deliver baseline information that could have been summarized in a simple 10-minute video. And then there's the endless training course. You try to build a massive multi-week course for a skill that really only requires a simple, behavior-focused step-by-step training. Learners get bogged down in unnecessary theory, causing dropout rates to spike because their immediate practical need isn't being met. When reviewing your educational offerings, be on the lookout for these major red flags that signal a format or pedagogical mismatch. Red flag number 1, high dropout rates. If learners drop out halfway through an experience, the timeline or format is likely too demanding for the practical goal they're trying to achieve. Red flag number 2, passive overload. If your goals require participants to apply a skill, but your tech setup only allows them to watch a screen, your pedagogy is too passive to achieve your outcome. And red flag number 3, unused tech features. If you're paying for an advanced learning management system with grading scales and discussion boards, but you're only using it to store static PDF links, you have chosen a complex course vehicle for what is essentially a basic repository. Your choice of format and pedagogy dictates your underlying technology stack. Each configuration has its own distinct must-haves to function cleanly as a single unit. For webinars, you need stable, high-capacity broadcast tools that prioritize video delivery and simple text engagement, like chats or polls, without overwhelming the viewer's working memory. For trainings, you need progressive tracking and automated completion data, so your system can instantly verify that a user successfully duplicated the required behavior. For workshops, you need active collaboration software, integrated whiteboards, real-time document editing, and seamless breakout rooms where participants can construct projects together without technical lag. And for courses, you need a robust central hub capable of housing structured, multi-week modules, handling graded assessments, and managing long-term community discussions to support transformational growth. In the world of online education, form must follow function, and technology must follow pedagogy. If your technology configuration doesn't match the cognitive journey you want your participants to take, the platform becomes a barrier to learning rather than an accelerator. By clearly defining whether you are building a course, a webinar, a training, or a workshop, you remove the confusion, optimize your software budget, and set the stage for real, meaningful engagement. Thanks for joining me for Demystifying the Digital Landscape here at the Online Educators Forum. Stay tuned for details on our next educational design series.